Hi, I'm Ginny Robertson, founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community and founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine. I'm here with Mia Zachary to talk about her article in the November-December issue of On Purpose Woman magazine. Thanks for being here with me, Mia. Welcome.
It is always a pleasure to spend the morning with you, Ginny. So thank you for inviting me back once again.
You're welcome. And thank you for your contribution to the magazine for November, December, and again in January, February, because you're doing a series of articles.
I
And
am.
your article in this issue is called The Fractured Mirror, which is the first in a series. I don't remember. Do you have a title for the series, or is it a concept for the series? I think it's more of a concept, isn't it?
It's more of a concept.
Okay.
I have kind of been making it up as I go along, but everything relates back to this first topic. So
Okay.
I really wanted to share about the fractured mirror in the beginning so that the rest of the articles would make a little bit more sense.
Yeah. Well, what inspired you to write about this topic?
First and foremost, I wrote this for me. I wrote this as everything that we do, whether we're coaches or whatever our service is. It's always whatever we create is always for us at the bottom line. And the thing of it is, I noticed that I really struggle to accept praise. I really struggle to accept compliments. Not going to get all into the psychology of my childhood wounding from my alcoholic father. Don't need to go down that road this morning. But one of the things that I notice is that people, for example, this morning, my husband's like, "Oh my gosh, you look so cute." And it's almost like that compliment came, hit a glass wall in front of me, and slid down before it got to my heart. And this is pretty typical with me because he's saying, "Oh, I love the overall look of you. You look really pretty this morning." And I'm thinking about, I didn't draw this eyebrow on right, and I've got a pimple coming in over here, and and I'm, there's a couple of hairs that are sticking out because the curling iron wouldn't go right. And so the fractured mirror is really based on my own experience. You wake up in the morning and there's a mirror over your bathroom sink or over your dresser in your bedroom, and you look, but you don't see. We hyper focus on the little details. We look at the parts without seeing the whole of who we are. And so that's really the core messaging behind the fractured mirror, is that they're cracks, they're not breaks. And those cracks can always be like repaired, just like so you would send a real mirror out to someone. And the way that you repair that is by really looking at all the individual shards of your mirror with honesty and vulnerability and self-compassion. And you look at that little shard and go, yeah, you know what? Sometimes I can be like that. And it's okay because that's part of who I am.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be this person as I present in the world without all the little pieces that make up my big picture puzzle.
I love that. And I was so excited to start talking about your article that I forgot to ask you about you. So, what do you want our viewers to know about you?
I think the most important thing is that I do not aspire, I've never aspired to be anybody's guru. I am a big believer in lifting as I climb. Um, I'm not the foremost expert on anything. You better than I can ever know you. I can offer you some outside perspective as an intuitive counselor, which is a fancy way of saying psychic life coach. I can like step outside and give you a broader perspective, but at the end of the day, you have to do the work. And the work that I share with clients, with friends, with family, I'm only a couple steps ahead of you. I'm not better than anybody else. We're on the same, on the same playing field. I've just got a couple of head starts in a couple of very specific areas.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's true for all of us if we are honest with ourselves. And you only have to be a couple of steps ahead to for someone to learn something from you, right?
Yeah. And
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 they're a
and
couple of steps ahead in something else that they're teaching someone, or if they're not teaching, we're always teaching, but just being an example to someone else.
exactly. And I think the biggest hurdle professionally, personally, and spiritually is that vulnerability piece,
Hmm.
is to be able to mess up in public and let other people see your imperfections and know that, all right, she is just like me.
Yeah. Yeah. You just reminded me of something that happened many years ago. It was I worked for a seminar company at one point, but it was my first foray into their work. I was a client, and it was the very first program. It was 3 evenings and all day on Saturday and Sunday. And I had shown up and I was in line and, had paid in advance and all this kind of stuff. And there were people around me just doing things I thought were just so, why aren't they more prepared? Why I was just judging everybody about to stand in this line because you can't find your credit card, just really dumb things like that. But I was also looking around at the women there and saying, I don't think I dressed up enough. Or I don't think, look how put together she is. And I was really, um, feeling like out of place. And I had, I always dressed appropriately back then. It wasn't like I would look like a slob. But I remember like on Saturday, this it was 3 days in, we went to lunch together in our small group. And there was a woman in my small group who owned a big employment agency. And, I wasn't an entrepreneur. I wasn't an entrepreneur quite yet. I was kind of dabbling in some things. And I just admired her so much. And she also always looked perfect. And somehow this conversation came up, and there were men and women in the group, but, we were there together. And I said, oh, I just feel you just blah, blah, blah. And she looked at me like I'd lost my mind. She goes, Jenny, you do realize, don't you, that the first night you walked in here, your pink Reeboks matched your pink sweater, and your nails were perfectly done, and your hair looked great. You do realize that, don't you? And I'm like, no, apparently not. But it was just so interesting that she had seen me thinking I was all put together and was also as successful as she was still judging herself a little bit too. So I love what you're saying because it's so true. And it's probably very sad that many, if not most women, have this experience. Would you agree with that?
I would, and that I kind of touch on that briefly in the article as
Mhm.
well. We've been programmed for that. We've been conditioned for that. You know, our first role models were our mothers, our older sisters, our aunties, women in the community, our friends' mothers. Um, and just there is this pervasive message of nothing about you is ever going to be good enough. That's
Mhm.
why you have to buy this hair color. That's why you have to get your clothes from this shop. That's why you have to buy this brand of makeup. We are constantly bombarded with forget about it. Don't even bother like leaving the house because you're just never going to measure up to this impossible manufactured ideal. And so that's the other thing about the fractured mirror is it's like, who broke it? You
Mhm.
didn't. I didn't.
Came broken.
Every little girl who came into this world came into it bright and beautiful and talented and smart and compassionate and amazing. And then we systematically started breaking her in elementary school. I mean, it's just I mean, I remember in elementary school, and I think I mentioned this in the article too. The big thing was Calvin Klein jeans, Calvin Klein jeans, and that was oh my gosh, that was such a difficult period of life. I'm 14 years old. I've just started high school. I am one of the tallest girls in my class. I'm this big with glasses and braces. And Brooke Shields was on the cover of Vogue for the first time, October 1980. So, like my birthday month, and I'm looking at a girl my age on the cover of Vogue, and I will never in a million years live up to that ideal.
Mm. Yeah.
So the fracturing that most, well, let me not say all women. I think it's probably more of a first world problem, to be honest.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think the fracturing starts really early in just the media that we are exposed to. And it's so pervasive that it's really, I mean, it's a lifetime to undo that.
Hmm. Oh, it certainly is. One of my earlier memories is, I mean, I was a redhead, was born a redhead, and was being teased for having red hair especially by this one boy who was a real bully. He was 3 years older than me, and we were in elementary school together. It was a little elementary school for just our neighborhood with like 20 kids max, in one big room. And my mother would always say nice things about my hair. Oh, your hair's beautiful. And I was the only redhead in the family. My dad had sort of reddish hair, but and I just always hated my hair. And I thought the first thing I'm going to do when I go to college is dye my hair blonde. And I did. And I remember coming home from to visit, and my dad knew I was taking a swimming class, and he said, "Wow, that chlorine's really doing a number on your hair." And I went, "Yeah, it really is." But I was so unhappy, and it's so interesting going back for like school reunions and all. And oh God, Jenny, you had the most gorgeous hair. We all wanted hair like you. Well, why didn't anybody tell me that back then, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And that whole idea of my mother was 5'1" and weighed about 95 pounds, and she was always on a diet because
Mm.
if she gained 5 or 10 pounds, she couldn't wear her clothes, she said. So she was always on a diet, model dieting to me. When I went to college, I weighed 118 pounds, and I gained 10 pounds in the freshman 10 to 15. And I came home to visit, and she remarked on it. I came home the next time
Wow.
to visit. She bought me all these new clothes in my previous size. They were all laid out on my bed. And I said, Mom, I can't wear these. Oh, you'll get into them, she said. I never
Mm.
got into those clothes. I was not going to get into those clothes. I was like rebelling at that point. I was like 130 pounds. That was,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
thought I was,
Which
I
is
thought I
still
was
pretty
heavy too.
tiny,
It was still pretty tight. I look back now and go, damn, damn, I looked really big,
right? Right?
And if we could see ourselves in those looking back eyes, and that whole idea, what would we say to our young self back then? It was like, you're
Oh, I
probably
would love to
really
do that. I
perfect.
would love to be able to do that and
Yeah.
say, hey, guess what? I clocked in at 173. That's how much I weigh these days. Isn't it gorgeous on me? All of these beautiful curves. You know, those braces that daddy spent all that money on. My teeth have shifted again because guess what? I'm almost 60. My eyesight is going. My hair is turning gray, and it does not change my value or the worth that I bring to the work that I do. It doesn't make any difference to how I am able to serve in the world and how I can help you. And I wish I could go back and tell her, you know, all those fairy tales that we were raised on about the beautiful golden haired princess. Someday you're going to meet somebody who treats you like a princess, looking exactly as you do. Stretch marks, surgical scars, crooked teeth, pimples, thick glasses, all the things, all the things. And at the end of the day, we are how our creator made us. And I think that's the thing that we forget about because we live in a culture where, oh, you don't like your nose, go get rhinoplasty. You don't like your breasts, go get augmentation. We live in a again, first world problems. We live in a culture where it's like, oh, you're broken, you're broken, you're broken. Spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to fix yourself. And I would be curious to know how many people are actually happy.
Mhm. There was a show on many years ago that I don't think I would have ever watched if my son had said, Mom, you'll really like this show. And it was called Nip Tuck, and it was about plastic surgeons. And it was so interesting. I didn't understand why he thought I would like it because it had nothing to do with the plastic. It was the psychology behind all of it. And you're right. It was, something else had to be. I see nothing wrong with people wanting to do that, but I think you have to be in a pretty healthy place to say, okay, I think I'll just feel better about myself if I think I just will. I want to present, younger than I am for whatever reason. I mean, if that's what people need to do, that's okay. But I think we need to, if we don't heal some of that first, one surgery is probably not going to be enough. Or
Exactly.
it's kind of like
And
personal growth work. How many classes do we really need? How many
right,
certifications do we really need? How many, gurus do we need, right? To be okay with
right.
ourselves. So yeah.
And I hope I didn't come across as judgmental in making
Oh, I
that
don't think you did.
statement.
No,
It
no.
was more of, and I'm not saying I'm necessarily brave enough to lead this charge, but we really do need to normalize aging bodies. We
Mm.
really do need to normalize, why can't I wear a bikini at my age? I have just as much right to go to the beach and enjoy the sunshine on my skin as anybody else. Why do I have to wear a cover up? Why do I have to wear, you know, anything less or more in the case of a swimsuit? You know what I'm trying to say. But yeah, there's a couple of actresses I've noticed recently, and of course, I can't bring their names to mind. Pamela Anderson from Baywatch is one of them. Alicia Keys, I think, is another. And sometimes Drew Barrymore, but not on her show. But like, I'm seeing women that I grew up, watching on TV and in movies, and they're not wearing makeup anymore.
Mhm.
And I have a lot of friends, not me, who've stopped dyeing their hair. And I think that really our a lot of our mirrors are going to remain fractured until we start seeing beauty in a wide spectrum
Mm. That's a
of
great point.
of presentations.
Yeah. And it has to start with women, you know, it has to start with women, because if we can't accept each other and ourselves and how we look, if we're looking outside for that outside validation from men or other women, it's never going to, it's not going to be enough for one thing. It will never be enough. We people keep filling us up, and it's never going to be enough, and they're going to get exhausted at some point.
Yeah.
But this idea that we women are the ones that are usually, you know, I mean, I remember, going on a 5-day retreat where you couldn't wear makeup until Sunday night. We got dressed up, we had a party, and the men were all going, wow, I think I liked you all better without your makeup and I said, why is that? Well, because you seem more vulnerable, you seem more approachable, you seem more real. And so I wear makeup. I like makeup. I've worn makeup since I was like 13 a little bit. I just like it, and I think I look better with it, especially on
Yeah.
camera because I have no eyebrows. I
Yep.
and yet I will go out without it. It's like I had a sister who wouldn't go out to put out her trash without her face made up. She goes, I got to put on my face first.
Oh my gosh, my grandmother used to say that. I have to
Yep.
put on my face.
Yeah. And so I think that, as we get more comfortable with ourselves, and it's a generational thing, I think, hopefully younger women will watch and not do some of the things that we've done and do some of the things that we're trying to do now. But that, I'm not going to expose my body on the beach because I'm just not. And I think it's a vanity thing. It really is a vanity thing about no, I'm not. I want you to think I look like something else under here. And it's
Yeah,
it's silly though, because we do deprive ourselves,
we really
you
do.
know.
I had an amazing experience a couple years ago. This was actually June of 2020, so it was during the pandemic. But we had I went to a women's retreat in North Carolina, and we had all what's the word? Isolated, whatever,
Mhm.
like we had like so one of the most freeing events was like the last night we were there, we built a bonfire outside, and one of the women there just, I mean, there we could hear the wolves howling in the woods around us. I mean, we're sitting on 100 acres with no neighbors, nearby. And one of the women just like took off, the robe she was wearing and started dancing around the fire. And I was like, oh my God, she's younger than me and she's firmer than me and all the things. And then I'm like, you know what? If I don't howl at the moon and dance naked around the fire tonight, when am I ever going to do it?
That's right.
And it was really fantastic. It was an amazing. And then, like, once two of us did it, everybody else joined in. And it was one of the most joyous experiences that I've ever had in my life. There was no judgment, there was just sisterhood and not even vulnerability, just being,
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
our earth suits and these beautiful bodies that have weathered the storms of time and come out still able to give life, to give love, to give compassion, to give healing was really cool. It was really cool.
Wow. That's something I've never done. I've never had the opportunity to do it, but I think I would if I had the opportunity, just because you're right. If not now, when, right? And you brought up
And some of
something
those women I'm
interesting.
never going to see again. So,
Yeah, oh, true, true. But you did bring up something interesting because I can look at, the nude bodies of older women and see them for their life, the life that they brought or not, or just the wisdom in it with still more compassion than I have for my naked body, right?
yeah,
And the
yeah.
rest of me, I'm pretty good with. But it's, as I'm into my 73s now, and it's like, it's probably not going to get any better, especially if I'm not doing anything to help it out. But, so accept all of it, you know,
Yes.
and, we talked a little bit before about, you know, oh no, you actually talked about it here now. It wasn't, we were chatting before about, receiving a compliment from your guy and how, did you say that here? Was it when we were,
I did,
okay, I
because
can't
that just
remember.
happened this morning.
Yes, yes. And, I'm with someone, who thinks I'm amazing all over, and so why, and it's not just BS, it's like it's coming from this really true space. And while we shouldn't need that outside validation, I think we should trust it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Okay, Mia, there's so many things we can talk about, but I do want to touch on
I
a few
know. I
more
love talking with
things.
you.
Let's talk a little bit about just this stages, because you talked about, yeah, I talked a bit about, starting out with the red hair and knowing that I was somehow broken and flawed. And you talked about, going into high school and having these role models or these models, actual models like Brooke
Actual
Shields,
models.
and
Yeah.
being on the cover of magazines and aspiring to that, which is impossible because more than likely that picture was airbrushed even for a
Oh,
14-year-old
yeah.
girl.
Oh, yeah.
She wasn't good enough to be in print, even though she was a gorgeous young woman. She still wasn't perfect enough to be on the cover of a magazine without smell.
No, and I mean, and that was the big thing. She didn't pluck her eyebrows. Her mother wouldn't allow her eyebrows to be plucked. And so Brooke Shields started that whole trend
Yeah,
in the 80s
yeah.
of natural eyebrows. But at the time, it was controversial. How
Uh-huh.
dare you not remove body hair that nature put there for a reason?
I know. It's sad. And you were talking about some of the actors. I remember a number of years ago when Jamie Lee Curtis posed naked with like little briefs on and a sports bra. And Jamie Lee Curtis, was I thought early in the early days to have the best body in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
And her body had gotten a little softer and a little, and no makeup, no hair fixed or anything. And she just had this, and I forget what magazine it was in. And that started almost a revolution. It was like, if she's willing to do that, damn,
Yeah.
and that's why she did it. Because I want women to understand that that wasn't me in those pictures, that even at my best, I never looked like I did in those pictures, you know. And Alicia Keys did an entire couple of seasons of The Voice in no
With
makeup
no makeup. Yeah.
and stunning, stunningly beautiful, you know.
Really, really beautiful.
And so that's encouraging. It's
It
encouraging.
is. It
And
is.
again, we're not dissing surgery, we're not dissing makeup or hair dye. It's just do it for the reasons, do it for yourself.
Do it, and that really is what it comes down to. You
Mhm.
have free will, you have personal choice. I'm like without lipstick, my lips are really pale and I feel like you can't see them. My eyebrows are going gray. So yes, I enhance them. And
Yeah.
my glasses are so thick that my eyes disappear. So yeah, I have reasons to wear makeup and I'm not ashamed of that. And I don't want anyone who might see this interview to feel ashamed of it either. Baby, do you,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
because you are perfectly okay. In fact, better than okay. You are great just as you are. And hopefully my compliment comes across and you can receive, even
You
if I don't
receive these
receive
better than we
yours.
receive some, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mia, I have to call you out on something though, because your eyes are perfectly beautiful and I can see them very well. So they do not disappear. Well, mine get a
That's because
glare
I'm wearing a
sometimes.
lot of makeup.
Okay, but just know that we can see your eyes. Yeah. And I used to joke and say, well, I wasn't really joking that they were going to be putting the hair dye on me when I was 110 in a nursing home because I was not going to go gray because I loved red hair. And most redheads I'd seen went this kind of yellow gray, and I didn't think that
Mm,
was very pretty. And when it started coming through a little bit, I decided to get my hair cut really short to see what would happen. And my stylist did a great job of keeping it like low lights and stuff as it grew out. And I never thought I would do this. Because there's also something weird about, red hair at a certain age, you got to have the color just right, or it
yep.
looks like you're
Yeah.
just a walking head, just a head on a stick or something. And so, and I do remember announcing that on Facebook. And I didn't have a photo yet. I said, I've decided to do this, and I reserve the right to change my mind at any time. And a woman who I didn't know that well, who was younger than me, she goes, "Oh God, not me. When I see that first gray hair, I'm sending my husband out to the grocery store to get hair dye because I won't even leave the house." And I'm thinking, whoa, that's two two sides of the polarity, right? It's that lack.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, that wasn't that severe, but yeah. And I'm really just glad now because I think it looks nice and it's easier than doing
It
all that
is.
stuff. Yeah. But
And
again,
that really is another point about the fractured mirror. It really is about polarity. It's There's this weird thing that happens, and I already talked about like only seeing the pieces, but there's another thing that happens too. I don't feel 60. Like inside of this earth suit, which is not really me. I mean, this is my meat bag full of minerals and water run by electricity,
how
right?
sexy, huh?
I know, but at the end of the day, that's what it is.
Exactly.
So, like, there is that polarity. There's these days when it's like, okay, I only see and I criticize these little pieces. And then there's other days where I'm kind of, half awake and bleary eyed, and I walk into the bathroom and I do see the hole, and I'm like, whoa, mom. you know, it's like that's not what I thought I looked like. In my mind, I think I arrested somewhere around my 30s. I don't feel 60. I feel like I still have energy and I still have a lot of life left in me, and I still have a lot of things I want to do and create and experiences I want to have. So yeah, that really is interesting. So the work that I'm committed to, and I'm just going to call it, the Seven Roses pathway, um, which is not bad. I think I just made that up. Anyway, I think the work that I'm committed to going forward, the Seven Roses pathway, is really about taking that polarity, that duality, and bringing it. I'm not saying that I'm like so amazing and special that I can get you fully integrated, but man, if I could get your poles just a little bit closer, if we could not go to such extremes when we look at ourselves and how we see ourselves and present ourselves and the images of ourselves that we want to create, I will feel like I have accomplished something on your behalf.
Yes. And that brings me to my next question. How can our viewers find out more about you?
I have a website which is my full name, so it's Mia Mia Lena Lena Zachary Zachary, mialenaZachary.com. And on there, you'll find out a little more about me in the bio section. I do try to be honest about my childhood abuse and my suicidal ideation because I am a survivor. And the things that didn't break me are the things that made me stronger. And I think that's the most important message that I would want to convey to somebody is if you fractured a bone in your arm, for example, oddly enough, that place where that break heals, that fracture heals, ends up being stronger than the bone around it. And so I think for me, what I do is I work with women who don't see themselves as the amazing, whole, complete, beautiful creations that they are. I do not empower them. not anymore. I really feel like that phrase is overused. I empower women to do this, and I empower women to do that. And let me actually, I apologize. Let me stop that voice because that's being judgmental of people who are still using that phrase. So let me step back on that. See, I'm not perfect. Like I said, I'm just lifting as I climb. I caught myself. I'm switching gears. Let me switch that up. I choose to no longer say that I empower anybody to do anything because that implies that I have power that you don't.
Mm.
We all have power. We just have to remember where we tucked it, which little corner of our psyches we hid it in, which little area of our heart we need to pull it back out of. But my work shows up as conversational counseling and energy balancing and oracle work. And that is how I serve. It is an unusual way to serve. It is a challenge for me to really explain what I do. But basically, I remind you of who the hell you are and who you're capable of being.
Well, that's a great tagline if I've heard one. I remind you of who the hell you are and who you're capable of being. Do you ever use that in any of your marketing? Because that
No, but
I
I
would
might
write that
after
down
this. I'm
because
on fire today.
I would write that down because I think that's brilliant. Yes. And Mia's information, how you can get in touch with her, will be in the text of this video as soon as the Facebook Live is finished, and it's also on the YouTube channel. And just remind everyone that you can read Mia's article. She goes into a lot more detail and information in that article in the On Purpose Woman magazine for the November-December issue. That link will also be in the text of this video. You can go there and check that out and check our previous issues out as well. I want to also thank Mia for being an advertiser in the magazine. I appreciate you for that. You
Thank
do
you.
have something that you're promoting and that you're really excited about. I want you to let everybody know about that. And we'll have information in the um, chat of this, not the chat, but the text of the video about how they can find out more about that as well. It's also, is it on your website?
It is on my
Okay,
website
great.
as of 9 o'clock last night.
Okay.
um, Creating programs and products is my area of genius. Website development and building, not so much. However, I am thrilled and excited to share the opposite of the fractured mirror, which is the Seven Roses Garden deck. And so there actually is a mirror on the back of the card to remind you of all the different areas of beauty within you. And then, within the deck, all of these mirrors are florals because I wanted something that was just remind you of how naturally beautiful you are. And so each of the cards has a persona. That's a mask that we wear or a mirror that we look into or a role that we long to play sometimes. There's a keyword, and then there's some wisdom from the womb at the bottom of each card. And so basically, this is 35 mirrors that represent who you can be, who you are, or who you want to be on any given day at any given moment. Because the greatest thing about being a woman is, like you said in your Facebook post, I reserve the right to change my mind as many times as I want because I can do that. And so the idea of this deck is that you can use it for daily guidance, or you can use it as a personal development journey to really go deeper into your own shadow work, your own mirror work, to start to heal the fractures in your mirror.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And everyone watching this, just know that you can click on the links below and find out more about how to get your deck of these beautiful oracle cards. And I was taken by the back of the card that's the same of all the different types of flowers there. And then that's probably quite intentional because they're all beautiful and none of them look like the other one. And so we're
Exactly.
out there comparing ourselves and going, oh, no, those flowers don't do that. They don't look
Flowers
around
don't
the
do
garden
that.
and go, I don't measure up. They're blooming and being a flower. And so that's what we can take from this, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely. You are a rose. Go find that Bette Midler song.
Ooh, yes, yes. Okay, well, I want to thank you, Mia. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for writing your article. You have one coming up in the new next issue, the January, February issue. And what's
I
that about?
do.
Just give me a sentence or two about what that one's about.
That one is called Meeting Grace in Your Mirror.
Mm.
And I decided to do something a little different. I'm going back to my creative writing roots because I haven't done that in a while. So the current issue, The Fractured Mirror, is a little more, nonfiction, et cetera, with a little bit of memoir. But the next one is all fictionalized. So you kind of have to read between the lines to get the messages, but I thought that might be something fun to do. So
I think so too. And I haven't read it yet because I'm still editing articles and haven't gotten through them all. So I look forward to reading that. And just thank you again for sharing your wisdom and your heart and your life with us. I appreciate you and I'm grateful for you. Thank you so much.
I appreciate the fact that you have dedicated a quarter of a decade to lifting up the women around you, for providing this opportunity, and for always being a safe space for people to come and be themselves, Ginny. You are an amazing, incredible woman, and you are one of my role models.
Thank you. I accept that very much. Feels really good. I appreciate you.
Hopefully that one got through the
Okay.
glass.
Yes.
Thank
So
you
thank you all
again.
for watching and watching the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show, and for more interviews with amazing women living their lives on purpose and bringing their unique gifts to the planet. Please check out our YouTube channel that is also in the text of this video. See you later.